How many times has Hu Jintao been rumored to be dead? I counted since he stepped down without any official position at the 18th Party Congress in 2013. Up until today, the end of July 2026, in these 13 years, he's been declared dead at least 7 times. Yesterday was the 8th. At the height of the rumors, he could die twice in a single quarter. Some said it was a cerebral hemorrhage, others claimed it was a heart attack, some said he was held under house arrest until he died, others said he was forced to commit suicide at the Xishan villa, and there were even claims he was poisoned and couldn't be saved. By last night, the rumors had escalated to his entire family being wiped out. Yesterday, a screenshot from Weibo went viral overseas, claiming that the whole Hu family died from food poisoning and couldn't be saved despite emergency treatment. The signature was Qin Feng, the current director of Hong Kong Satellite TV's comprehensive channel. In just a few hours, reposts and likes on X skyrocketed to hundreds of thousands. Some people said that ever since Li Keqiang, they've been testing the waters and raising the stakes, and now it's escalated to being completely out in the open, saying the era of the underworld has arrived. Others said that the odds of all 3 family members being poisoned at the same time are almost 0, unless it was deliberate poisoning. A few hours later, Jinping himself came forward to clarify, saying his account had been hacked and that he wasn't the one who posted it. What started as a shocking bombshell turned out to be a massive misunderstanding. But did you notice something? Every time there are rumors about Hu Jintao's death, it stirs up a huge political storm. You might think you're just watching the final act of an old man's life, but in reality, it's the true undercurrents of Zhongnanhai. And this time, the whistleblower arranged to leak the news was Qin Feng, a name that makes people shudder just hearing it. To be honest, when I first heard this rumor, I was skeptical too. I'm curious, what was your initial reaction when you saw this rumor? Let me know in the comments whether you believed it or not. Let's take 2 minutes to talk about what happened yesterday. Yesterday, a screenshot from Weibo went viral, claiming that former leaders, including their wives LYQ and HHF, suffered food poisoning during dinner, were given every effort to be saved, but passed away at 4 o'clock. The person who leaked the news was identified as Qin Feng. Who is Qin Feng? He's the director of Hong Kong Satellite TV's general channel, and previously he was the director of interviews at Phoenix TV. We all know the positioning of Phoenix TV and Hong Kong Satellite TV. These 2 stations are at the core of the CCP's external propaganda. But what really makes Qin Feng impossible to ignore is his family background. His grandfather, Qin Lezhen, once served as Liu Shaoqi's secretary and was the director of the consular department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His maternal grandfather, Yankee Liang, was once the director of the General Affairs Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His uncle, Li Zhaoxing, is a former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the CCP, and his father, Qin Shaiyang, was the former president and editor-in-chief of China Finance and Economics News. 3 generations in diplomacy, a truly distinguished family. In his own words, when he was a child, the Qin family would have a big gathering every Friday. The adults would get together to talk about international affairs and diplomatic hot topics. It didn't feel like a family gathering at all. It was more like a regular meeting at the State Council. So Qin Feng has never been just an ordinary internet blogger. He's the kind of person who grew up listening to news straight from the Zhongnanhai dinner table. The circles he has access to are places that most media professionals could never reach in their entire lives. What's even more important is that he once made an extremely accurate prediction. We'll talk about that separately in a moment. But about this rumor, hey, let me ask you all, when you first saw this rumor, did you believe it or not? Tell me in the comment section. But then the story flipped pretty quickly. Just a few hours later, Qin Feng himself came forward to clarify that he never posted anything like that. The screenshot was fake. So why would someone post it under his name? This was definitely not a coincidence. Let me tell you about a famous moment, and then you'll understand why someone would use his name. Around the time of the National People's Congress in 2013, all the reporters treated high-ranking officials with the utmost respect, except for one exception. At the scene of the Congress, Qin Feng actually reached out and tugged on the sleeve of former Foreign Minister Yang Jieqi. Do you know what level Yang Jieqi is? He's basically the highest-ranking official in the CCP's foreign affairs system. But in front of Qin Feng, he was just like a junior. Qin Feng also repeatedly blocked his uncle Li Zhaoxing at the Congress. While other reporters had to make appointments in advance and go through layers of approval just to interview a minister, Qin Feng would just stand at the door and refuse to let him pass. This kind of presence is something only those truly born into powerful elite families have. And it was exactly because of this aura that the phrase, "the river flows east," in November 2022 shook the entire overseas Chinese-speaking community. On that day, November 13th, 2022, Qin Feng posted a photo on Weibo of the autumn scenery in Jiangling, red leaves, the river, and distant mountains. The caption was just 5 characters: "The river flows east." It got over 10,000 likes. Some people guessed it was a subtle reference to Jiang Zemin, while others thought it was just an artsy landscape photo. 17 days later, on November 30th, 2022, Xinhua news agency officially announced Jiang Zemin's passing. Only then did people realize that Jinping had known all along. He was a full 20 days ahead of Xinhua. That same day, he posted another message. Let me say it again: the river flows east. This particular Weibo post quickly had its comment section disabled by the platform. From then on, Jinping gained a new identity in overseas political circles, an informant from Zhongnanhai. But he has also made mistakes. On April 12th of this year, Jinping posted 4 characters on Weibo. Wang Xi was arrested. At that time, he already had 14 million followers, and those 4 words instantly blew up the entire internet. Even Fang's stock price took a hit and trembled more than once. As a result, Wang Xi himself came out that same day to refute the rumor, posting on Weibo with his wife to fight back, and even threatened to call the police. After staying silent for a few hours, Jinping quietly deleted that Weibo post without offering any explanation. This also left an awkward space for yesterday's rumor about Hu Jintao's family being poisoned. He has a track record of both past successes and recent failures, so someone using his name is precisely taking advantage of this gray area. I have to say, this is a very clever rumor monger who really understands the political ecosystem of Zhongnanhai. As for who this rumor monger is, nobody knows. But with the halo of a celebrity, choosing to release it right before the Bidaihe meeting, and it's such a sensitive moment when the 5th plenary session is about to be held, this piece of fake news that suddenly broke out and was quickly refuted has itself become a symbol of the political games in Zhongnanhai this summer. Did you know? If you look at it over a longer timeline, you'll notice an astonishing pattern. Over the past decade or so, every time rumors of Hu Jintao's death have surfaced, they've coincided with real undercurrents of political tension in Zhongnanhai. The first major wave of rumors about Hu Jintao's death broke out between 2015 and 2019. After Hu Jintao completely handed over military power in 2013, his public appearances in the following years were still quite normal. He visited Fujian and Guizhou for inspections, attended forums with old colleagues, and went back to Tsinghua for alumni events. Everything seemed very stable. But during the 4 years from 2015 to 2019, rumors of his death would surface overseas almost once or twice every year. And these rumors all had something in common. They were extremely vague, with no specific scenes. It was always things like, a certain hospital in Beijing is under lockdown, or a big shot is coming and going at the 301 hospital, or Hu Haifeng goes to work during the day and keeps vigil at night. Just these shadowy, suggestive fragments. When the rumors were at their peak, the authorities would arrange a public appearance, releasing a photo from an inspection or footage from a forum. So why were there so many rumors about Hu Jintao's death during that period? During Xi Jinping's peak anti-corruption campaign and the Zhongnanhai power shift, Zhao Yangkang and Guo Baxiang received life sentences, while Xiu Kaiho died in custody. The first 3 were Jiang Zemin's allies placed to sideline Hu Jintao. The last was Hu's Central Committee General Office Director and the Tuanpai's chief steward. Although Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign mainly targeted the Jiang faction, it also indirectly put pressure on Hu Jintao's Tuanpai. Every time Hu Jintao was rumored to be critically ill, whether he could recover in the end became a barometer for overseas observers watching the Tuanpai's last line of defense. October 2022 was the period when rumors of Hu Jintao's death were at their peak. At the closing ceremony of the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, under the long lenses of hundreds of domestic and foreign media outlets, Hu Jintao was forcibly lifted from his seat and escorted out of the venue, looking back repeatedly as he left. Li Zhanshu, who was sitting next to him, instinctively tried to stand up to see Hu Jintao off, but was pulled back into his seat by Wang Huning next to him. Li Keqiang sat nearby, looking cautious, while Hu Chunhua stared straight ahead with a blank expression. In the weeks that followed, rumors overseas spread like floodwaters. Some said that Hu Jintao suffered a heart attack that very night at the Xishan villa. Others claimed he was being held at the 301 hospital, where he was given injections to induce dementia. There were even rumors that Hu Haifeng had been suspended and placed under house arrest, and that the entire Hu family had already flown to the United States to seek political asylum. Each of these rumors sounded more convincing than the last. The turning point came 2 months later. On December 1st, 2022, Jiang Zemin passed away. On December 5th, 2022, Hu Jintao personally went to the 301 hospital and attended Jiang Zemin's farewell ceremony afterward. The incident where he was escorted out of the venue had a truly far-reaching impact. Since then, Hu Jintao has almost completely disappeared from public view. In 2025, during the September 3rd military parade in Beijing, he was absent from the Tiananmen rostrum. Later, when the remains of senior CCP leader Sang Ping were cremated, Hu Jintao's name was on the list, but he did not attend in person. By October 2023, a third wave of rumors about Hu Jintao's death surged, this time triggered by the sudden passing of Li Keqiang. In the early morning of October 27, 2023, former Premier of the State Council Li Keqiang suddenly died of a heart attack in Shanghai at the age of 68. Li Keqiang was the successor to the Tuanpai faction led by Hu Jintao, and he was the one Hu Jintao most wanted to see become general secretary back then. A former premier who was only 68 years old, had the nation's top medical team looking after him, and had only been retired for just over half a year, someone who just 2 months earlier was still in high spirits waving to tourists in Dunhuang, suddenly died of a heart attack. At the time, people overseas almost unanimously refused to believe that this was just an accident. From that moment on, people in overseas political circles started to suspect if the leading figure of the Tuanpai faction could die so suddenly and under such unusual circumstances, would the next one be the old master himself, Hu Jintao? So after that, rumors about Hu Jintao being critically ill started flooding in from everywhere. There were claims that Hu Jintao suffered a cerebral hemorrhage on hearing the news of Li Keqiang's death, that both master and disciple were harmed on the same day, and that Hu Jintao was also being treated at the 301 hospital. On November 2nd, Li Keqiang's body was cremated at Babishan. In the official news footage, Hu Jintao did not appear, only a wreath he set was shown. The authorities originally intended to use the wreath as a symbol of political stability, but to overseas observers it actually became the clearest signal that something was wrong. This former general secretary of the CCP probably doesn't even have the freedom to attend the farewell ceremony of his most accomplished protege. Li Keqiang's death and Hu Jintao's safety have since turned into the most talked about black box mystery in the overseas Chinese-speaking community. Everyone wants to clear away the fog, but can only ever see shadows. And that's exactly why, today, it's especially important to reconstruct the details and sort out the threads of the story. If you have friends who, like us, care about the current situation in China, feel free to share this episode with them. Let's try to seek the truth together in the midst of the fog. The fourth wave of rumors happened just 2 days ago, and this time the scale escalated to the level of the whole family being wiped out by food poisoning. The methods used to fabricate these rumors have also been upgraded significantly. Instead of anonymous leaks, they directly impersonated a celebrity account with a credible reputation. The timing was also chosen very precisely, right on the eve of the Beidaihe conference. The Beidaihe Conference is an annual retreat-style working meeting for the top leadership of the Chinese Communist Party, usually held in July or August. Historically, almost all major personnel decisions, policy disputes, and factional struggles are first settled at the Beidaihe Conference and then formally approved at the Central Committee plenary session in the fall. Just yesterday, the CCP Politburo announced that the 5th plenary session of the 20th Central Committee will be held in October, and unusually, the main theme will be strict governance of the party. There is widespread speculation that this 5th plenary session may deal with the cases of Zhang Yuxia and Liu Zhenli. Will that really happen? Subscribe to True Perspective and let's follow this together. It's such a highly sensitive moment. A fake news story suddenly broke out, claiming that Hu Jintao's entire family had been wiped out. There's no way that's just a coincidence. Which faction is really testing the waters behind the scenes? And who is releasing this smokescreen? And for what purpose? Under such opaque politics, we may never get to the truth. But have you ever wondered, why is it that every time a smokescreen like this is created about someone's death, Hu Jintao is always the main character? Well, that actually has something to do with who Hu Jintao is. There are 4 layers of contradiction and tragedy in Hu Jintao's story. Let's go back to 1959, when 17-year-old Hu Jintao was admitted to the Department of Hydraulic Engineering at Tsinghua University from Taizhou, Jiangsu. He was one of the youngest students in that year's hydraulic engineering class. Those 6 years at Tsinghua are usually glossed over in official biographies with just a sentence or two, but they were probably the most vibrant and free period of his entire life. He was the party branch secretary of the Tsinghua Student Art Troupe's dance team. That's right, he danced, and he could even choreograph his own dance performances. In 1964, to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the founding of the Chinese Communist Party, Beijing organized the grand musical and dance epic With the East is Red, which was the highest level political performance at the time. Tsinghua selected 100 of its best students to participate in the show. 22-year-old Hu Jintao was one of them. Can you imagine that? The same Hu Jintao who later became expressionless and spent his whole life reciting party jargon was actually a young man dancing gracefully under the spotlight in his youth. His classmates recalled that he was very thin, and when you look at the photos, it's almost impossible to tell which one is Hu Jintao. He never tried to stand out, was humble, and did very well academically. His wife, Liu Yangqing, was his classmate. The two met in the classrooms of the Department of Hydraulic Engineering and have walked hand in hand through decades of ups and downs. This is the first layer of Hu Jintao's background. He came from a performing arts troupe, excelled academically, had a gentle personality. He was the very picture of a modeled Tsinghua student from the 1960s. But the good days for this model student didn't last long. In 1968, the Cultural Revolution swept across the country, shattering the dreams within Tsinghua University. At the age of 26, Hu Jintao was sent by official order to the far northwest to a hydropower station construction site called Lujiasha in southwestern Gansu. He joined the construction team, and his daily work consisted of carrying bricks, mixing cement and sand, digging earth, and building temporary shelters. The gap between the stage at Tsinghua and the makeshift shelters at Lujiaxia is easy to imagine. During his 14 years in Gansu, he married Liu Yangqing and had a daughter, Hu Haijing, and a son, Hu Haifeng. He worked his way up from the lowest level engineering technician to deputy division chief and then to deputy director of the Gansu Provincial Construction Committee. It was also in the vast, dusty Northwest that he honed one of the most important survival skills in the Chinese Communist Party's officialdom: restraint, keeping a low profile, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. In 1985, at the age of 43, Hu Jintao caught the attention of Deng Xiaoping and Hu Yaobang and was parachuted into Shaozara to serve as the provincial party secretary, becoming the youngest provincial leader in China at the time. During his 3 years in Jizhou, he did something quite interesting. He went to audit classes as an undergraduate in the class 85 in the mathematics department at Jizhou University. At that time, even though he was the esteemed provincial party secretary, he went to university as a student, all for the purpose of learning about computers. This was the so-called third wave that Zhao Ziyang repeatedly talked about at the time. A provincial party secretary, already in his 40s, going to audit undergraduate classes? Just think about it. You can't say he wasn't pragmatic. This is another aspect of his character, his willingness to learn. By the end of 1988, at the age of 46, Hu Jintao faced the most dangerous turning point of his life. He was transferred to Tibet, becoming the first party secretary of the Tibet Autonomous Region since the founding of the PRC without a military background. Just over a month after taking office, the 10th Panchen Lama suddenly died of a heart attack in Shigatse. The situation in Tibet immediately became tense. From March 5th to 6, 1989, large-scale violent clashes broke out in Lhasa. On March 7th, the Chinese Communist Party imposed martial law in Lhasa. This was the first time in CCP history that martial law was declared. On the eve of the martial law taking effect, the Tibet Daily published a photo showing Hu Jintao wearing a military helmet, appearing on the streets of Lhasa together with the martial law troops. After 1989, this photo was quietly scrubbed by the CCP's propaganda apparatus. But according to reports, when Deng Xiaoping saw this photo, he commented, "He is firm on matters of principle and never shows mercy." It was this very remark that put Hu Jintao on the fast track to becoming Deng Xiaoping's designated successor, skipping a generation. According to incomplete statistics, during the period of martial law in Lhasa in 1989, just in Lhasa alone, 387 people died, more than 700 were injured, and 2,100 were detained. As for the monks, 82 died, 37 were injured, and more than 600 were detained. Martial law was not lifted until May 1st, 1990, lasting a total of 14 months. This is the second defining trait of Hu Jintao: unwavering party loyalty and a firm hand in critical moments. In 2002, Hu Jintao became CCP General Secretary, inheriting a carefully designed puppet setup. At the 16th Party Congress, the Zhongnanhai incident saw military leaders lead a coup, demanding Jiang Zemin's stay as military chairman and forcing Hu to agree immediately. With no other choice, Hu Jintao had to agree. It wasn't until 2004 that Jiang Zemin reluctantly handed over the position of chairman of the Central Military Commission. That same year, Xu Caihao became vice chairman of the Central Military Commissions. At an expanded meeting of the Central Military Commission, Xu Caihao, citing the need for continuity in military affairs, proposed setting up a permanent office for Jiang Zemin inside the Baiyi building of the Central Military Commission. He even invented a new title, Chief of the Central Military Commission, specifically for Jiang Zemin. So during Hu Jintao's 10 years in power, he lived under this bizarre structure. In name, he was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but all personnel promotions and transfers within the military were completely controlled by the two vice-chairmen of the Central Military Commission, Go Boxiang and Xu Kaiho. The legal system was in Zhao Yongkang's hands, a knife handle that was his private fiefdom. Stability budgets were opaque, black jails emerged systematically, and Zheng Qingheng controlled party personnel, while Li Chengchun ran propaganda. So at the time, there was a widely circulated saying, Hu Jintao's 10 years were like a young daughter-in-law in traditional Chinese society. The mother-in-law had stepped back but was still in charge, the younger brothers-in-law each claimed their own territory, and the household accounts and military power weren't in his hands. Whenever he tried to get something done, he ran into obstacles everywhere. This is the famous 9 dragons controlling the waters. The emperor can't even leave Zhongnanhai. During these 10 years, the Chinese Communist Party, riding on the dividends of joining the WTO, saw GDP soar from 13 trillion to 52 trillion. Officially, this was hailed as the golden decade, but at the same time, it was also a decade of rampant corruption and the unchecked growth of interest groups. By 2011, China's spending on maintaining stability actually surpassed its national defense budget for the first time. See, the CCP spent more money guarding against its own people than against foreign enemies. This became the great paradox left behind by Hu Jintao's 10 years in power, and it added the heaviest footnote to his later remark, when you're in the world, you can't always act on your own will. On November 8, 2012, the 18th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party opened. Following Jiang Zemin's precedent, a leader could stay as military commission chairman for 2 more years. Termed a stable transition, it actually meant retaining military power and ruling from the shadows. At the time, Xi Jinping also advised Hu Jintao to stay on as chairman of the Central Military Commission for 2 more years, and all the members of the commission jointly requested that Hu remain in the position. But Hu made a decision that shocked the entire party. He chose to retire completely, handing over both the roles of General Secretary and chairman of the Central Military Commission at once. He even abolished the internal rule that required major decisions to be reported to the former General Secretary. On November 15th, at the first plenary session of the 18th Central Committee, Xi Jinping assumed the highest positions of General Secretary and Chairman of the Central Military Commission. Shortly after, the office of Jiang Zemin, which had operated for many years inside the Bai building of the Central Military Commission and within Zhongnanhai, was officially decommissioned and closed. At the time, overseas commentator Mr. Chen Pokong wrote an article evaluating Hu Jintao's complete retirement as a move to go down together with Jiang Zemin, like Dong Chenrui charging into a bunker with a bag of explosives, blowing up both Jiang Zemin and himself. Back then, the public universally praised Hu Jintao's noble character and integrity as he willingly relinquished power to make room for the next generation of leaders, and in doing so, completely put an end to the problem of retired elders interfering in Chinese Communist Party affairs. But history played an incredibly cruel joke on him. 10 years later, Xi Jinping, who inherited his power, swept this former elder off the stage of history as if clearing out old relics, right in front of the world's cameras. So back to the earlier question, why is Hu Jintao always rumored to be dead? Because Hu Jintao is the living symbol of the Tuanpai faction and Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up path. His well-being essentially represents the health of the entire legacy of China's reformists, liberals, and collective leadership system. As long as he's still around, as long as he's still alive, there might still be another possibility inside Zhongnanhai. That's why, every so often, someone tries to declare him dead. It could be Xi Jinping's opponents testing the waters, or it could be Xi's own camp trying to prepare people in advance, or maybe it's just overseas independent media chasing clicks. Friends, who do you think is more likely to be testing the waters this time? If you think it's Xi Jinping's people, type Xi's camp for me. If you think it's the anti-Xi faction, type anti-Xi forces. Let's see what everyone thinks. Every time there's a death rumor, at its core, it's really a question. During the He Wen decade, that so-called golden era of 9 dragons ruling the waters, has it truly faded away with the wind? How much warmth from that seemingly open and hopeful era still lingers today? Is the old man who has been rumored dead 8 times in these 13 years still alive? Is he living well, or is he struggling? We don't know, and maybe we'll never know. In this black box, someone who once stood at the pinnacle of power can actually be rumored dead 8 times. When the 9th rumor comes around, we still can't tell if it's true or not. Alright, that's all for today. If you have anything you'd like to say, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. I read every single one of your messages. If you've made it this far, before you leave, please do me a favor. If you haven't already given me a like, please remember to do so. To new friends, welcome to subscribe to True Perspective. That way my new videos will show up more often on your YouTube homepage in the future. Also, please click on the fan recommendation feature, which is the hype feature. Also, please help by sharing my videos with more friends. Every interaction from you might only take a second, but it can help trigger YouTube's recommendation algorithm, allowing my hard work to be seen by more people. It also helps our content and the truth we share to reach a wider audience. Alright, so let me thank everyone here in advance. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to join us again at the same time tomorrow on Jin Guan Jian. See you then. Bye-bye.